replacing your clutch fan is the subject for today's video. Now to do this, ideally having the radiator out and the shroud out makes things much easier. But if you don't want to remove the radiator and go through that process, you'll just simply need to remove the shroud. To remove the shroud, you will have to take off the 4 bolts that actually hold the radiator in place and use something to secure the radiator so that it doesn't drop down and possibly damage your transmission lines. So on this, you can see that you have the clutch that is connected to the fan, and then it's connected back to the water pump pulley, and that is held in place by 1/2-inch bolts. And so what I use is just a little stubby box end wrench, and I go through and just loosen each one. And if you notice, when you turn the fan, there's going to be one spot where there's a little bit more of a gap and it's a little bit easier to work. But as I tell people, you better fully expect to have a couple bloody knuckles by the time you're done doing this. And once you get all 4 of them loose, you should be able to just stick your fingers in there and gently take the rest of them off. Now you may have to get in there a few more times with a wrench, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. There we go. And so that's all there is to it. So now that we've got this guy removed, what you want to do is take off each of these 4 bolts on the back side, and then the fan will actually separate from the fan clutch. Now when you go to reinstall it, make sure that you have the fan in the proper orientation. So as you can see, the blades have a curve so that the front edge of the blade is closer to the radiator, the back edge is closer to the motor. So make sure when you put it on that it looks just like this. Otherwise, you'll be pushing air from the engine towards the radiator. Okay, so now we have our fan and fan clutch removed, and you need to loosen up the 4 bolts that hold it onto the back, and those are 1/2-inch bolts on there. And I've already loosened up 3 of them, and let's see, there's the 4th one. Oh, actually, I guess I got them all loose. So you want to go ahead and remove each of these, and there is a lock washer on each one, and the new fan clutch that we sell at BJ's Off-Road will include new lock washers. So you want to make sure to take those off, but retain the bolts themselves. And here is the new clutch. So you can see it's an exact replacement. So what I like to do is just set it down, and then in the same orientation. That way you make sure you have the fan blades set properly. Just move that over. Slides right over the top, and then just align it with the holes. One on there. Now you want to get each of these finger tight, and then we're going to get a torque wrench, and they need to be torqued to between 15 and 18 foot-pounds. Alright, so we got everything put back together on the fan with the clutch, and what we also did was we loosened up the power steering so that this pulley is able to be moved a little bit easier, just to get everything set on there. And installation is the exact opposite of disassembly. So you just line everything up, get it put in there, and then you get the nuts started, and those are 1/2 inch, and I use a box end open end wrench to get in there, of course, because you can't get a socket. And one of the other benefits of loosening the power steering pump is then you can rotate this guy around to make it much, much easier to access each of those nuts. So now we got each of those nuts tightened down. And now the next step is going to be to take the power steering pump and go ahead and tighten it back up. And what that'll do is that'll put additional pressure on the water pump pulley so that we can get just one more little tightening cinch on each of those nuts. We can go ahead and get in here. And now I'm going to use the box end, get a little bit more grip on it. And we'll just tighten each one just a little bit more. Now, something else that I would recommend is after you've run it for maybe a couple hours, 40, 50, 60 miles, go ahead and double check the tightness on that just to make sure that you did have it fully tightened and nothing's loosened up.